Hey class, this is Mr. Solokha from Vlad Knows. So I decided to try to create my own video. So this is first of the series. You guys can see I have some code already up. So this is for your final project, Bounce 7, as you can see up here. This is going to be a tutorial that will help you figure out why the code that you download, Bounce 7, when you run it, it looks like this. The ball is just moving up and down. It is also passing through the paddle, but it is bouncing around the screen, which is good, except this is not what we want the game to be. So if I press the left arrow, which I am going to do right now, the paddle should move left and then away from the screen. If I try to bring it back, it doesn't do anything because the right arrow obviously is not working for some reason. So a couple bugs in the program, and the purpose of this video is to help you figure out how to create that basic game that I want, and get it ready for modification, which is going to be your final exam. If I go to these instructions, which I will also post to Google Classroom. The purpose of these instructions is to support you, and hopefully this video is helpful for those of you who are visual and audio, and those of you who perhaps do not want to read all these steps that I've created in the instructions for completing the basic bounce code. So let's get started. The first thing I would like to do with this code is to make the ball not just go up and down, but also side to side. So that's going to be the easiest fix. It's just one line of code. So let's try to fix that first. So what I'm going to do is find the ball class, which is right here. And I'm going to look for the horizontal movement. The variable that controls the horizontal movement is actually this variable right here, self.x. This is just like writing x equals 0, and x will represent our horizontal movement for the ball. So an easy fix is to change that 0 value to be a random number that is in a random range between -3 and 3. You can choose other values. So what happened here is that we declared x as a value, not 0, but we can say as a random value between -3 and 3. And obviously the value will be changed later. And I can show you where that will happen. That will actually happen in the draw function. And if we scroll down a little bit, we can see that if, for example, the position of, if the left side of the ball, which is what POS 0 stands for, if the left side of the ball reaches the left edge of the screen, we will change x to be a positive 3 value. So if, for example, the computer picks a random range that is -1, as soon as that means the ball will be going to the left. And as soon as the ball reaches the left side of the screen, the ball will bounce off of the left side of the screen, and the value will change to a positive 3. If the ball reaches the right side of the screen, which is what this code says, if the ball reaches the right side of the screen, the ball will bounce off and start moving in a negative direction again. So our values the game may start with -3 or -2 or -1 or 0 or 1 or 2 or 3, but it will end up being a 3 or a -3. So let's try this out. We just changed one line of code, that is that one, And if I run the code right now, you should see the ball randomly goes in some direction. And now it's bouncing around all the screen. And you'll notice that it's either a -3 value for x or a +3. Right now it's positive. Right now it's negative as soon as it bounced off that edge of the right edge. And obviously the y is also the up and down movement of the ball is also either a positive, negative value up or a positive value down. Perfect. Let's move on to the next thing. So the next thing I want to do is when I run the code, I want the paddle to move left and right. For now, if I press the right key on the keyboard, the paddle doesn't move, but if I press the left arrow, the paddle does move. So there is some code there to help you figure out why the paddle moves. So instead of being in the ball class, I'm going to guess that paddle movement happens in the class paddle. So I'm going to scroll down and find class paddle. Here it is. Class paddle contains these two definitions: def turn left and def turn right. So both of these definitions tell the paddle to either move left or move right. And obviously only the turn left one is working. How is it working? Well, this code helps us figure out how it's working. We're telling the canvas to bind all of the keys on the keyboard, including the mouse, and specify this when the window comes up. When the canvas comes up, we're telling the computer if you're listening to the canvas, if you see that the user presses the left key, the left arrow on the keyboard, we want to do this function. We want to run this function. When we run turn left, the computer stored turn left in its memory. It will run this x equals -2 for the paddle. That makes the paddle turn left. So as you can see in the comment, tell canvas to bind left arrow key to turn left function. The next comment says tell canvas to bind the right arrow key to turn right function. So that means I need to add some code here to help me do that. The code is actually this whole line copied or duplicated, and all we're going to replace is this left with a right and that left with a right. So I'm going to copy this code, I'm going to paste it here, and I'm going to change this left to a capital right, and this this turn left function is going to turn into a turn right function. That's it. When I run the code, I should see the paddle move left and right when I press both of the keys. The next thing to do will be to make sure, let's limit the paddle from going off the screen like this, because that's a bug. I don't want my paddle to go off the screen. I want it to stop on either the left side or the right side. So what I'm going to do is first understand that the ball is already doing that. When the ball hits in these statements, in drawing the ball, if we're saying if the ball hits, for example, the left side of the screen, make it bounce. So I'm going to use this code right here, and also this code position to when the ball reaches the right side of the canvas or the canvas width, it bounces off to go in a negative direction. So I'm going to just copy these two lines of code because they are useful for me to, the paddle will basically do the same thing, not go past the screen just like the ball doesn't. So I'm going to copy these two lines of code and I'm going to paste them into the draw function of the paddle class, which is right here, class paddle. The same function draws the movement of the paddle. So as you can see, we're telling canvas to move the paddle, which is what self ID is. ID is the name of the paddle. Self X is just the X value, and that's what actually moves the paddle. And obviously the paddle is not moving in a vertical direction. That's why you see that 0 right there. So I'm just going to paste the code here, making sure that my block, my indentation is correct into the function. And this time we're checking that the paddle's left side doesn't leave the left edge of the screen and goes right, and the paddle's right side doesn't leave the edge of the screen and goes left. If you run this code, we will get an error because we don't actually have a canvas width inside this class. There is, if you look in the class, we do not have a canvas width. So we're actually going to add one here by saying self.canvas width, canvas underscore width equals, we're going to get this information from this line of code is actually the same as in the ball class. So I'm just going to go up there and copy it, which is a little bit easier. Always copy and paste when you can. That's a best practice. So here's where we're getting canvas width, and we're saving it into canvas width. We're getting window information. That's what the WINFO stands for. So we're going to just add it to this init function, which sets the attributes for the paddle. Self canvas width. Now we get window info, and we save it to canvas width. And so whenever we call this variable, whenever we call it, we stored it here. Whenever we call it, the computer knows, oh, canvas width is, we obtain that from the width info, which is actually 500 pixels right here. So when we created the canvas, we made it 500 pixels. So at this point, the paddle shouldn't leave the left edge of the screen. We should probably change this code right here and make the paddle move X to the right. And I'm going to leave these comments blank for you to fill out. They're basically the same thing, except we're not reaching the left edge of the screen. We're actually reaching the right edge of the screen, and we're making the paddle move in negative direction as soon as the paddle reaches the right edge of the screen. So I'm going to run the code right now, and you should see the paddle. Oh, we have a name POS not defined. So this POS was used, but it was not defined. I'm going to look at my balls draw class. So class ball, I'm going to look at the draw. And I did define a POS here. I'm getting coordinates from the ball, which is what self ID is. I'm getting coordinates from the ball. And so I'm asking canvas, give me the coordinates of the ball every time you run, and save them into POS. So I'm going to just copy this line of code because I need it in my paddle class, in my draw definition. So I'm going to make some room here and just paste POS equals. So now I can use POS, and I can see that will happen. So this is saying canvas, this is telling canvas to get coordinates of the paddle and save them to POS, the POS variable, which we use later. So why do you see brackets here? 0 just means this is calling that first number in POS. Remember, POS is for it's a list of 4 numbers. So if I pause this game right now, you can see, if I close this, you can see this is the ball's, where the ball's left side is. This is where the ball's top side is. This is where the ball's right side is, and this is where the ball's bottom side is. So each number represents